Welcome back to Morning Express. It's time for us to discuss your finances and your money, where we hope by the end of the day you become more financially intelligent. And well, today we're talking about a bucket list. And I know many of us, if not all of us, have that thing that you desire to one time possess, or that place that you'd love to go. For you, it's always been a dream, but what is hindering you from achieving that dream is probably the cost or how to financially bridge that gap. And that's what we call a bucket list. For some, it could be a holiday in the Bahamas or the Caribbean, or maybe go to the UK and, I don't know, visit somebody there. Whatever your bucket list is, how do you achieve that financially speaking? Because many of us, let's be honest, we live hand to mouth. And we're going to have the phone lines open in case you find that maybe there's a question that you'd like to ask, maybe there's a comment that you'd like to throw in. Feel free to do that either via telephone, or you can also do that via Twitter. The Twitter handles are also going to be displayed on your screen as we carry on with the conversation. Now, joining me to have that conversation is Manyara Kirago, who is a financial counselor. Good morning.
Good morning to you.
And thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Now, is it true that many of us, if not all of us, actually have a desire or a dream that we'd like to achieve, but the only thing that is hindering us from achieving that dream is probably finances?
Well, it's very true that we would like to, each of us would like to do something special, something that they'll remember the rest of their lives. But money seems to get in the way. That's very true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, how do we go about achieving that? Because most of the things in our bucket list could be considered a luxury or a non-essential to some extent. I mean, it could be a noble thing. It might even be to build your parents a house. But when we look at our financial habits and what we have left in our pockets, then it becomes a dream and remains a piped dream.
Well, what we need to do is incorporate whatever we want to achieve in our financial plan. What you're calling a bucket list should be part of your financial goals. Now, your financial goals will range from normal things like educating your children, if you have children, buying your own home if you don't have one yet, and such things. Now, that special dream you have, like you said, maybe a holiday, could also be one of those financial goals. Mm-hmm. And those financial goals, there's a way to set them to make sure that they're actually achievable.
Okay.
And what you do is we say that they should be SMART. Mm-hmm. And SMART is an acronym, which means they should be specific. Mm-hmm. Specific in terms of how much it's going to cost you to achieve that goal and the time frame within which you're going to achieve it. Mm-hmm. And then secondly, they should be mutually agreed between you and your significant other, if you have one. Mm-hmm.
If you're alone, then you mutually agree with yourself.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
And then also, they should be attainable. By this I mean, with relation to your other, with your income and your other things you need to achieve, how does it fit in? Because it's one thing to say, yes, I want to go to the Bahamas, but if your income cannot even take you to Mombasa, it's not achievable. Mm-hmm. So it should be achievable. Mm-hmm. And not only absolutely in terms of whether you can manage to go there, but you must also realize that that's not the only thing you're doing. You're also taking care of your family if you have a family. You're also preparing for your own retirement eventually. Right. So there are other things you're doing. Mm-hmm. So how does it fit in with those? Mm-hmm. And then also, it should be part of your financial plan, which should be a recorded financial plan. Mm-hmm. And then you must also remember that you have to make trade-offs. You have to give up some things in order to achieve others. Okay, I want to go for that trip in Bahamas. Yes, somehow it can fit in my budget. But for me to do that, I'll have to give up a few luxuries. I have to give up a few other things. Mm-hmm. Maybe I might say that instead of going out with my friends every weekend, I cut down on that.
Sacrifice on that.
Absolutely. I cut down on that. Maybe I go out with them every month. Okay. So that I have some money left that I can put aside towards that particular project.
Yes. All right. Now, let's dissect further this acronym SMART. And the first thing you've said is specific.
Yes.
What is it that I need to do to ensure that it's specific? Is it specific enough to say that I would like to go on a holiday?
Saying you want to go on a holiday is very, very broad. You will have to break it down now to where do you want to go for the holiday, how much will it cost, and when do you want to do this. Now, when you once you've broken it down that way, you'll now be able to put it into practice. For instance, if I say I want to go to the Bahamas 5 years from today, and it'll cost me X amount. That way, I'm able to break it down to how much do I need to put aside per month towards that. And then what I do is I go and put a standing order in my bank account. So when my pay comes in, a specific amount is removed from there, and then it's put to that place where I'm saving up for money for that specific goal. That way, you will be able to actually accumulate the money.
Able to quantify
Yes.
it and put a time frame to it.
Yes.
Okay. Now, you've also talked about being attainable, still part of the acronym. And one might say that the reason why I am actually putting it in my financial plan is that I cannot afford it off my salary to go. You know, I can't say I'll go next month.
Yes.
But maybe in a year, I am able to do that. How do I work on, or how do I know or quantify what is attainable for me? Because let's face it, I may say in a year I may be able to save up, I don't know, 300,000 to just splash out on a holiday.
Yes.
But again, that may not be practical given how much I earn per month.
Yes. Now, attainable, by saying we need to do something that's attainable, plan something that's attainable, we need to look at all the other things which we need to do in our lives. And that brings in our budget. Okay, I'm earning X amount per month. How much do I need for living expenses? How much do I need for housing? How much do I need for, how much am I putting away for my retirement? How much am I putting away for other things? So within that budget, can the amount which I need to put away for that specific goal, that the holiday, can it fit there? That's how you say we find out whether it's attainable.
Whether it's attainable.
Yes.
Now, let's talk about financial habits, because for us to achieve that dream that we want, we have to have a certain culture, as it were, you know, financially speaking. But you'll find that sometimes our cultures are driven by the fact that the amount of money we earn and what society expects from us really does not help us to have a very healthy habit financially. How does one change that?
Actually, it's true that too many of us are driven very much by peer pressure.
Right.
And we find ourselves, simply because you're wearing a nice suit, and I also want to wear the same designer suit.
You want to belong.
I want to belong. But one of the things we need to question ourselves is, are we buying the friendship? Are we buying ownership? Are we buying belonging into that particular peer group? You might even go further and ask yourself, is that where you really want to belong? Because you might find that there's another group where they don't look at superficial things. They look at more
better investments.
Not necessarily investments, but things which are not so superficial. Like, for instance, a good life for the family. For instance, being able to ensure that you're developing financial security for yourself. And those sometimes they're the exact opposite of the people who look at superficial things. Because people who look at superficial things will be looking at the car you drive. It doesn't matter that you are being chased by auctioneers. So long as you drive that car, they think you're doing well. And so we need to question ourselves, are we really trying to get into the right peer group? Are we surrounding ourselves with the people who have positive values? Yes.
So that brings us down to values. And are there certain values, financially speaking, that would say are the best practice? Are there values that we can look at? Because again, the need to belong is what drives us to do some of these things. For instance, maybe I've just gotten a new job and I want to live in a certain area because, you know, when everybody asks, when you go for a gathering and you're having your drink, somebody asks, so where do you live? I want to belong. I want to say I live in that area where everybody, you know, else is living. Are there certain values that can help me now achieve that so that I'm not pressured by the bad values?
Well, I think it's just your outlook, the way you look at things. Because I don't think that you need to feel pressured simply because you're not living where everybody else
yeah, or where my peers would like me to speak.
Yes, and we also need to look at things in the long term. Because really, if you're living in that expensive rented house and you are not doing anything for your future, what will happen come the end of your employment, you'll end up going to a much cheaper house. You'll end up in a very bad financial situation. However, if you resisted that urge to match up with those peers who look at nice rented houses as something very important, if you resisted that, you would be able to live in a house that you can really afford, so that you're accumulating money, so that eventually you can live in your own house. So it's really the way you look at things. Yeah.
Okay, now I've had some say, and this is in regards to saving, that it is not about the amount of money that you earn that should determine your saving. For instance, you can have 10% saving regardless of how much you earn. But of course, practically speaking, some of these things sound very good on paper, and they sound very, very nice to implement. But practically,
yes,
if I'm earning 20,000 shillings, for example, am I able to save? How do I save?
This is very difficult for most people to grasp. And the reason I say it's difficult is because they start off, I'm earning this much, but I want to live in this place. Now, if you choose to live in a place where the rent is already consuming half the income, then definitely you will...
Saving becomes a problem.
It'll be impossible. So the key thing is to be absolutely realistic. This is how much I earn. And although I'd like to live in that place, I will live in this place so that I organize my finances, so that I get out of this poverty. So that as I'm putting money away, I may be able to invest in a business or invest in myself, so that my skills improve, I'm able to earn more. So in the long term, I will get out of here. But if I force myself to live in a house or to live a lifestyle which does not leave me with anything to uplift myself, then I'm stuck. In fact, it's always said that you should spend less than you earn. And the reason is, if you spend all that you earn, you're just treading water. And the minute and the minute your income stops, you're sunk. But if you spend less than you earn, no matter how difficult it is, and of course it will not be easy, you will find that whatever is left, now you can use that to lift yourself out of poverty. And you'll find that even in any organization, some people who have very, very low income, they are able to save because they force themselves to save. And others who have a very high income, by the 5th of the month, they're already broke. And that happens everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are there percentages that one can work with in terms of, you can now say, when it comes to accommodation or where I live, it should be a certain percentage. When it comes to transport, I should ensure that I allocate a certain percentage. Are there percentages you can work with so that, because with saving, I'm told that 10% is what you should put aside?
Okay. I really try to avoid percentage.